Good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to call this April 3rd Pender County Board of Commissioners meeting to order. At this time, Commissioner Brad George will lead us in prayer, and after that, Commissioner Jerry Groves will lead us in the pledge. Please stand.
Please stand if you could. Dear Lord, we come to you today thanking you for all the many blessings that you give us each and every day. We thank you for the opportunity that we live in this great country that we call America. We ask for your guidance now and direction as we guide the plans for the future of Pender County and do what is best for the citizens of this great county. In your name we pray, amen.
Let's say our pledge. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, so moving on to the adoption of the agenda, I have been informed by Mr. David Andrews that Ms. Jacobs, who was presenting 5.1, has had an emergency. She will not be able to be with us this evening, and staff has recommended that items 8.4 and 8.7 be pulled from the agenda. So, do I have a motion approving the agenda with the removal of 5.1, 8.4, and 8.7?
Motion for approval of the agenda without this.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? All right, the agenda is approved. So, public information. Mr. Keel, 5.2, presentation of the Water and Sewer System Development Fee Study by Stanley Consulting Services.
Yeah, and I have David Hyder here with Stantec, who is going to provide that presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Keel.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Will the presentation come up? Okay.
I had it in the agenda item. I'm not sure if it's...
Hopefully it'll come up. Okay.
The board has it in your agenda packet.
Okay.
Will that be acceptable to us?
We do not have these slides for the public.
Madam Chair,
Got it on my laptop.
it's on your screen, we just don't have it available to pull up on the big screen.
What would it take to get it up on the big screen?
It may take a few minutes. Does he have it with him? Is that what he's checking? Okay, sure, yeah, we can.
I'm sorry about that. My fault.
Nobody's fault, we'll just get it done. While we're waiting, do we have any veterans in the room? Please stand. Judge Corpening, we're happy to see you with us here this evening, or this afternoon. Mr. Adams, would you do me a huge favor and get the sign-up sheet from out in the hall? Thank you. All right, let's move on to public comment while they're working on that.
Scott Satterfield, we must. Devil or Scott Satterfield?
I want to talk to Scott right now. Everybody silence your phones, please. All right. So it appears that we have one sign up for an agenda item at this time, Miss Michelle Hickman.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, I didn't realize that was for the agenda item. It's actually public comment, resident.
Okay, all right. Well, you'll have another opportunity at the end of the program. All right, thank you. All right, so let's go ahead and look at our consent agenda. Do I have a motion? Is there, first of all, any items on the consent agenda that any commissioner would like to have pulled for hearing? Hearing none, do I have a motion to approve consent agenda?
Make a motion, we approve the consent agenda.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? All right. Mr. Batson, under approvals and resolutions, appointment to the Relief Fund Board of Trustees of Pender EMS and Fire, Inc.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair and Commissioners. On behalf of myself and Everett Bates with Pender EMS and Fire, the North Carolina Relief Fund for Pender EMS and Fire under General Statute 58-84-30 requires the department to assign 2 members to the board, which is Sandy Miller and David Dudding, and it also asks for the board to approve 2 positions, and that one is, as you see, Michael Carlisle, which most of us know as Turbo, that used to be in the Fire Marshal's office, as well as Joseph Hendricks is a fire medic with Pender EMS and Fire with over 15 years with their agency, asking to approve them 2, and then the last seat I sit as assigned by the State Insurance Commissioner. So we're just asking for a board approval for Michael Carlisle and Joseph Hendricks to serve on the Relief Fund Board for Pender EMS and Fire.
For the county representatives per statute.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Any discussion? Anyone have any questions? Hearing none, do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion, accept these 2.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor? All right,
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. 8.2, approval of award to L.R. Thompson and Sons for, well, you can explain the rest of it.
It's for the water plant high service pump station construction project. And I've got a budget ordinance amendment in here as well, and asking for approval of the associated purchase order and a reimbursement resolution as well. We took bids for this, well, first of all, the project, since it's been going on a long time, some of you might not have been on board when we started it, but the project was to add an additional high service pump at our water plant, and a high service pump basically are the pumps that push the clean water out of the plant and into our distribution system for use by our customers. We've got 2 of those pumps right now, but we've got space enough for 4. And we're looking to put a third one in, which will increase our plant capacity from the currently rated capacity of 2 million gallons a day up to 4 million gallons a day. And so it will give us a lot more flexibility in how we run the plant and how much water we can put out of the plant to ensure we have enough water going to our citizens. And so this project was to add that third pump, and we took bids for that on March 7th and did have 3 bidders. The low bidder was L.R. Thomas and Sons of Newbern, and we are recommending that we move forward with them. They're had the lowest and lowest responsible bid for the project. The project did come in over our initial budget and ended up to a total of needing an additional $384,320 to move forward with the project. We do have those funds available in the enterprise fund balance to move forward. And it is an important project, and of course, it's not going to get any less expensive as time goes on. So I am recommending that we move forward with awarding the contract to this to L.R. Thomas and Sons, and approve that budget ordinance amendment to move those funds from the fund balance.
Would we be putting the cart before the horse to approve the contract without the funds being approved and available under the contract, Mr. Andrews?
I believe that, do you have a budget amendment?
We're doing it all at the same
I
time.
think
It's
you're doing it all at the
in
same
here
time.
all at the same time, so.
Any questions of Mr. Keel?
How long would it take to install this?
I believe, I can't remember off the top of my head, but I think it's about 18 months is the construction period. And most of that is just waiting on supplies to come in.
You know, chain up,
Yeah,
supply chain, you know.
I think it's between 12 and 18 months. I can't remember the exact number of months that's in the contract.
Well, I was thinking the summer would be a lot more demand for water, but the 18 months won't be that long, so it'll be, okay.
Any other questions? Any other discussion? Do I have a motion?
I make a motion to approve, where is it at? Award to L.R. Thomas and Sons for the water treatment pump project
And the budget amendment?
and the budget amendment.
Do I have a second?
A second.
All in favor? All right, Mr. Keel?
Oh, and the agreement says the contract time is 365 days, so it's 12 months. Thanks.
That would be refreshing. All right, Ms. Blue, 8.3, approval of budget amendment to increase fuel sales and purchases for remainder of fiscal year 2023.
Yes, so this is our fuel depots. We basically buy fuel and sell fuel out of this Fund 53. So we just need to increase it because of gas prices and because of volume. For the most part, most of it will be sold back out to other individuals, or well, not most of it, but the portion that other agencies use will be sold back out to them, and their revenues will come here. So it kind of offsets, is what I'm trying to say.
So this will be enough till, what, July the 1st?
Yes, it should. If not, I'll be back.
So I guess we need to adjust our fuel charges for budgeting purposes this year.
Yes.
No, it's not. All right, any questions for Ms. Blue? Do I have a motion to approve?
Motion for approval, 8.3, approval of budget amendment to increase fuel sales and purchases for the remainder of FY 2023.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Thank you, Ms. Blue.
Sure.
And we're going to ask you to step down because I see that the system development fee study is up and running, so,
All right, I'll be back.
thank you, ma'am.
All right, thank you. Appreciate your patience. We've got it.
Thank you for getting that
Ready to
done
go,
so
yes.
quickly.
All right, so once again, I'm here this evening to talk about system development fees. And in terms of our presentation, it's fairly brief. I just want to go over some background. What is a system development fee? Talk about the approach, the calculations we've used, the resulting system development fees, and then our recommendations for a path forward. So just to start off, basically, what is a system development fee? It's a fee charged to new connections joining the water and wastewater system. You can also charge it when customers or new connections are requiring additional capacity on the system. So it really is a one-time charge. It's different from water and sewer rate, which you pay on a recurring basis. This is really just intended to be that one-time capital charge. The county does have them in place. They've been in place since 2018. And really the goal of system development fees is to recover the cost of constructing water and sewer system capacity. And the idea is that growth pays for growth. You have to build these assets in order to serve customers, and therefore it's intended to recover some of those costs. The fees are supposed to be based on units of service, and therefore they represent the potential demand. So if you have a larger customer joining the water or wastewater system, they're going to pay more of a system development fee than a smaller, like a single-family home, for example. The fees are legislated in North Carolina. So the Public Water and Sewer System Development Fee Act was approved in July of 2017. So that really outlines how communities can calculate and implement system development fees. So in terms of the methodologies, there's really three methodologies that are outlined in the legislation. They include the buy-in approach, which looks at the historical investments in the system. And then there's the incremental approach, which looks at the future investments in the system. And then the combined approach, which is really the most common. And that looks at the historical plus the future. I'm going to catch my breath. I was frantically trying to get that set up. Just a moment. Sorry.
Take a deep breath.
Okay. So using the combined approach, you do look backwards. So you're looking at both the investments that are made in the system as well as the capital improvement plans that you have coming forward. And this is generally the approach that's used when you have some capacity in your system to sell, but you also have plans to increase the capacity in the system. And that is the recommended approach that we're using for Pender County, is the combined approach. So in terms of the calculations, this is going into some of the detail. The system development fee is calculated. We have the numerator, we have the value of the system, which is basically the depreciated value of the current assets in place, escalated to the replacement dollars, plus that CIP that we have over the next 10 years. So those capital investments that you plan on investing in to expand the system. And then from that, the legislation requires us to take out some credits. So we have to subtract from that value the outstanding principal on existing debt. We also need to take out a credit against those capital projects. So the net present value of the principal over the planning period on the future debt. And then we also have to take out any assets that you didn't pay for. So those would be donated assets or non-core system assets. So things like equipment, vehicles. If you had a developer put in a system, you can't include that as part of the assets. And then the numerator is essentially the system capacity. And so that's the total capacity in the system as measured in units of service, typically equivalent residential units or ERUs. And that's both the existing system capacity as well as the planned expansion system capacity. So it's really a dollar amount divided by a system capacity in million gallons per day or gallons per day. And so when we look in the details, this is the calculation for the water system development fee. So again, using that combined approach. I won't go through all the detail here, but you can see the numerator that I was talking about. So we have the replacement value of your existing depreciated assets, broken into two categories, source of supply and transmission distribution. So you can see that equals about $137 million. And then your expansion capital projects total about $123 million. So that's in the CIP over the next 10 years, projects that are going to expand the capacity of the system. Then we have to take out those credits that I talked about. So you take out the outstanding principal on existing debt. That's about $50 million. We have to take that out because That's currently recovered from your user rates. Customers that pay their user rates are paying off that principal, so we have to make sure that comes out. As I mentioned, we want to take out those donated non-core system assets, and then also that revenue credit, so that future debt service on those capital improvements needs to come out. So that gives us a net system value of about $145 million, and that's what we'd use as our basis for setting the system development fee. And then we look at your system capacity. So on the water side, you currently have about 5 million gallons per day of water system capacity. But with the CIP, you're adding about 10 million gallons per day. So that would give us a total system capacity of about 15 million gallons per day. Then we look at what are you required to provide service to a typical single-family home or an equivalent residential unit? That's 360 gallons per day. So this would say that you had about 43,000 ERUs to sell on the system between your existing capacity and then what you're constructing. And so that's our denominator, which we then can calculate the system development fee. And so for the water system in total, we're calculating about $3,400 per ERU or equivalent residential unit. That's just a little bit above your current water system development fee. Then on the wastewater side, you have a much smaller wastewater system. You can see the value of the existing system, about 28 million. You do have substantial expansion projects totaling about 31 million, so total net system value of about 60 million. Again, we take out those credits, your outstanding principal on debt, those donated assets, that revenue credit I've talked about. So ultimately, we come up with a net system value on the wastewater side of about $34 million. As I mentioned, your wastewater system is pretty small. You currently have capacity of about 0.79 million gallons per day. The 10-year CIP is adding 1 MGD, so you're going to be at 1.79 by the time you complete that 10-year CIP. Again, we divide by that level of service per ERU, 360 gallons per day, which gives us about 5,000 ERUs in the wastewater system. So then we can do the math. We get to a system development fee on the wastewater side of about $7,100. That is lower than your current system development fee, and I'll show you in a moment how that compares on the wastewater side. So one last component before we talk about the full list of fees, and that's scaling of system development fees. As I mentioned before, you do have to charge system development fees per the legislation based on units of service. As a larger customer comes in the system with a larger meter, they're going to demand more service, therefore it costs you more to provide them with that service. It's common to scale them based on meter size, and meter size represents the hydraulic capacity that they're going to pull on the system. So again, a 3/4 inch meter is a typical single family home. They're going to use a lot less water than somebody with a 6 or an 8 inch meter. Currently, your water system development fees are scaled based on meter size, but your wastewater system development fees are not scaled based on meter size. They're based on estimated flow. So somebody comes in and says, I'm estimating I'm going to need this much flow, I'm going to produce this much wastewater, and that's how you develop and charge the system development fees for wastewater. We are recommending that you move to use the meter size for both water and wastewater. It's very common within the industry to do such. Would significantly eliminate some of the administrative headaches associated with basing it on estimated use as it currently is. And so again, we're recommending that you do scale it based on meter size for both water and wastewater. And so this slide here kind of brings it all together, shows you your current, on the left-hand side, your current water system development fees as they're scaled by meter size. So your current water system development fee for a 3/4 inch meter or typical single family home is $3,400. We're calculating $3,432, so just a very modest change in water. And then you can see as you go up meter size, the system development fee increases. On the wastewater side, as I mentioned, you currently charge $23.55 per gallon per day for estimated capacity. If we multiply that by 360 gallons per day, that turns into about $8,477. So that would be the current wastewater system development fee for a single family home. As we've calculated, we think that should come down a little bit to $7,100 based on the calculations and the fact that we're looking at a larger system now with the future capital. And then again, we're recommending that you'd scale them based on meter size going forward. If you have a customer and they have both water and wastewater service joining the system, this is what the combined charge would be for system development fee. So currently, just under $1,200, the calculation would be about $10,500 for water and sewer for a typical single-family home. And then, as you can see, as you'd scale up based on meter size, the charges increase. And so finally, as we move forward, our recommendation would be that you'd adopt and publish these system development fees as part of the county's budget. And then to stay consistent with the legislation, you do need to review and update the analysis at least once every 5 years to ensure that you're still in line with appropriate calculations and that the fees are still appropriate. So with that, I will be happy to take any questions.
Any questions? I think we're good, Mr.
All right,
Hyde.
thank you.
Appreciate
Appreciate your patience with me tonight.
Ms. Blue, you're up. 8.4.
All right. 8.4 was pulled, but 8.5 is approval of offer and authorized closing process for parcel off of McAllister Road in the Columbia area. This is a $32,000 bid on this parcel. The tax value is $28,000. The county acquired it through tax foreclosure in 2021. This is a 7-acre wooded residential lot with no apparent legal easement.
I'm proud to see again we have a bid that's above the tax value, so that pleases me
Yes.
a lot.
They are all above the tax value.
Oh,
Yeah.
Any discussion? Any questions for Ms. Blue? Do I have a motion?
Motion for approval.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? All right, thank you, Ms. Blue.
All right. 8.6 is another auction that we did with 3340 Halfway Branch School Road. This is a $12,800 bid for a tax value of $12,125. This was tax foreclosure in 2016, and it's a 1.2 acre cleared residential lot on Halfway Branch School Road.
How long did we hold that piece of property?
All of them are, hold it, it was from 2016.
Any questions? Do I have a motion?
Motion for approval.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Now, 8.8.
All right. 8.8 is another auction for 208 Burgall Creek Loop Road. And this is an $8,200 bid for a $2,500 tax value. We acquired this through tax foreclosure in 2018. It is a 0.3 acre cleared residential lot on Burgall Creek Loop Road.
That's an incredible offer. It is. Way
Do
above
what?
tax value.
I agree.
It's way above tax value, yeah, great.
Yeah, and this is surrounded by a lot of FEMA lots too, so.
Any questions? Motion to approve 8.8.
Make a motion to approve 8.8.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
All right, 8.9 is an auction for 960 Lee Road near Holly Ridge. This is a $7,700 bid. The tax value is $7,062. We acquired this through tax foreclosure in 2009. It is a 0.23 acre wooded residential lot on Lee Road. There's a structure with little to no value.
Any questions? Do I have a motion?
Make a motion to approve the offer of 8.9.
Second it.
All in favor? 8.10.
All right, so these last two are actual offers that were made, not on auctioned property. So these have not been approved for surplus previously. So this is basically approving for surplus as well as accepting an offer. This would be like if we just had a list of properties and somebody just called us up and said, hey, I see you own this, I'd like to make an offer of this. So this will start an upset bid process as of your approval if that were to be the case, both of these. So the first one is on Rock Road in Maple Hill. It is a $6,300 bid from Gene Parker. The upset bid process will begin today if approved. The tax value of this property is $6,300, and this is a .63 acre wooded residential lot acquired through tax foreclosure in 2018.
Well, at least it's tax value, so make a motion to
Yes.
approve it.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor? It's unanimous. 8.11.
All right, last one. This is 144 Rockfish Road in Maple Hill. It is recommended that the $37,089 bid from Raymond Arrington be accepted. This will begin the upset bid process as of today. The tax value for this property is $37,089. This is a 1 acre wooded residential lot with a dilapidated house structure acquired through foreclosure in 2019. And that includes the value, the residual value of the home.
So the existing building on that, right?
Do what?
So the existing building was on that?
Correct.
Yeah. Okay. Make a motion for approval.
Second. Do we
I'll
have a
second.
second? All in favor? Very good, Ms. Blue.
Thank you very much.
Can I ask
Thank
one
you.
quick question?
You
Where do
good.
the funds from these sales, do they go in the general fund? Where are
They do.
But
A lot of times there was there's at the very minimum, there were the attorney fees and the foreclosure costs to acquire it in the first place. So we acquire these because we're the only bidder at the tax foreclosure auction, meaning no one bid higher than the unpaid property taxes. So we basically put it back into the general fund because those funds came out of the general fund in the first place. Thank you very much.
He did good.
he's pleased, Ms. Blue. 8.12, Mr. Avery, you're up.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair and Commissioners. So I'm we're revisiting the space needs study request for the courthouse. And so the county published an RFQ for professional consulting firms to conduct a space needs assessment of our court facilities, related offices, and associated storage needs. Excuse me. So we're requesting authorization to negotiate and a subsequent purchase order for one of the two firms that responded.
So, we are putting this out for RFQ.
It's already been put out, and we
What
have
bid?
two companies that have responded.
So do you have a recommendation as to,
We do.
okay, may we hear
Based
it?
on the scoring rubric that we used, Mosley Architects is who we'd like to pursue negotiations with first.
And what aspect of their response did you consider and weigh heaviest as opposed to the other?
Their North Carolina experience was the
Well, that
defining
makes-
factor.
That makes sense.
The other one was out of where, Pennsylvania, wasn't it?
Maryland.
Maryland.
So, do we have any questions?
Just like to have a good track record. I've seen here all the courthouses they have worked with and cases, evaluations. Looks like they have a really good track record.
Mr. Manager, do you have any?
I'd just like to add a little context to this. I believe our budget is $75,000,
That's correct.
and so Mosley scored, the scores were very close. There was maybe 2 or 3 points difference, not much between the two. And so we'd like to, you know, according to the statutes, follow the process that we start with Mosley. But in the event that the, you know, the quote from Mosley is out of line, then we can go to the second one and negotiate with them. But because of the scoring, we would start with Mosley. But we also are sensitive to our budget of
So-
75,000.
So you would like our approval to go forward with Mosley and then allow you to drop back if for some reason,
If necessary, that's correct, in terms of price. Because in terms of qualifications, the scoring was actually very close. Would you agree with that?
Yeah.
any questions for staff or county manager? All right, do I have a motion? Any discussion? Do I have a motion?
A motion for approval on the courthouse space needs authorization.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor? All right. So, welcome, Madam Clerk. Would you like to say something? Would you like to take an opportunity to address what you hope the scope of this study will be?
I will, and I'm sure Judge Courtney would like to as well. I think the biggest reason the two of us were here is because we had discussed several times about having the space and needs assessment. You know, by statute, the files are supposed to be within the building that we work in, and we don't have them there currently. And I know that it's been mentioned several times that the reason that we don't have the files in there is because it was at the direction of the clerk where they were moved at. But I just wanted to clarify, we did lose a lot of space whenever we had to do the work from the hurricane. We had to move everything from the basement up to the first floor, so I lost over half of one office and I lost other rooms putting in an elevator. So it may not be in the same area, but the architect and engineer that came through said the entire weight of that floor, it's not just where it's located, but the entire weight of the floor could not hold as many files as we have, as well as the staff and the furniture and things like that. So that was the main reason why the files were not in there, and it's become a headache, as you could ask the judges and the attorneys that have been in there. There's been several instances where we are not able to get to files until the next day, so people have had to come back. And the other thing, I know we have mentioned, it's not just about the files. We don't have enough courtrooms. I can have, lately it's been 5 or 6 courts going on at one time. And I will tell you, just last week, Judge Davis was in there and he said he was not going in courtroom 3, that his exact words were, he said, that's a death trap for a judge or anyone having to sit on that bench. It is not, and Ms. Newton, you've been in there, it's not safe for you. If you're sitting up there and something goes down, you have no door to exit other than going through the public that's not happy with you. So it's a bad situation. But I'll let Judge Corpening talk about it more, but as far as that, we've also, we have so many trials and so much court going on, we are having to transfer Pender County cases to other counties to be heard right now because we're out of room. And by the statute, they're Pender cases and they should be held here, but we don't have any other options because we're out of space. So I do appreciate y'all considering that, and I do appreciate you passing that.
Madam Clerk, I appreciate the fact that you're here because certainly no one is more apprised of the hardships and the space needs than you.
Yes, ma'am.
And, you know, this space needs study started concerning issues on record storage, but I think that we've gone beyond that in the scope of the study.
Ms. Newton, it actually started, if you remember, we all sat down and it started well before the hurricane came in, and it was not just records.
30
it
years
was-
ago.
Yeah, it was before, yeah.
Yeah.
Would you like to have an opportunity to say something? Thank you, Madam Clerk.
So, Madam Chair, Commissioners, Manager, always a pleasure to be with you.
Always a pleasure to have you.
Thank you very much. Last
Please
week.
introduce yourself.
So, sure, my name is Jay Corpening. I'm the Chief District Court Judge for this district, New Hanover and Pender. I've been a District Court Judge here for 31 years. I've been the Chief for 17. I've been through a courthouse planning process with Mosley. I'd invite you to come down and see the product. Anytime you'd like, I'd give you a tour. With their work in our project, we did a contractor at risk model, brought the contractor on early, came in under budget, under time. They were great to work with. So
Yeah, that'd be
I
good
can share that
track
lived
record.
experience.
Yeah, real good track record.
And if you would, you and I had talked several weeks ago about your experience going through this process with Mosley. I think staff would be appreciative to hear the depth and the thoroughness with which you said they addressed New Hanover County's needs.
Glad to do that, and that was for a juvenile standalone facility, and they approach it in a very organized way, meeting with all the different stakeholders that are or should be in the facility to look at what space needs really are, not what all of us sitting around having a cup of coffee think they ought to be. As an example, they measured our files for our juvenile records in New Hanover County, so we knew exactly what kind of space we needed for those files. Took into account projected growth, took into account the projections about e-filing and the impact that may have, although it's a dumpster fire right now. But very detailed with the clerk of court, with the DA's office, with me, with our juvenile justice people, with our other folks who had space in the building. Really worked a good process before saying, here are the needs. And at the outset of that project, I was hopeful from the beginning that we would have a new facility. The county was hopeful that the existing facility could be rehabbed, added on to. But we all committed to the process, and at the end of the process, their recommendation was this new building that was significantly larger than our existing building. I can also share with you that we did 3 days of Pender County Court in New Hanover last week. I'm doing at least 3 days every other month, and I probably need to be doing 3 days a month, but we're trying not to do that, trying not to inconvenience the citizens. But we've really got one courtroom that is adequate for use. The annex isn't safe. In a serious case, if an inmate's on the witness stand, they're literally an arm's length away from the jury, less than an arm length away from the judge, closer than we are now. I mean, literally the two seats are that close together.
They're adjoining.
This is really needed. You and I have talked about this for a number of years. I think I was up here as soon as the water went down from Hurricane Florence, saying, hey, can we move forward? So appreciative of you, appreciative of the vote, and certainly hope that Mosley will work with you on the cost. And I'm happy to answer any questions anybody has.
Judge.
Will you also tell them what, so everyone knows what is gonna be put, what is supposed to be put in the courthouse, like as far as the public defenders, the DA's office, so they know?
Sure. So court's supposed to be, the court functions are supposed to be in the court facility, which includes the clerk of court office, district attorney's office, public defender's office, guardian ad litem office. That's a perfect world, but the court functions are supposed to be in the court facility. And when we look at this, we're not planning for 2025 here, right? We're planning for what's about to happen is going to have to last the citizens of Pender County for a long, long time. We looked with a 30-year lens in the building of our juvenile facility. If we had been building, a regular general purpose courthouse, we would have probably tried to use a 50-year lens to look at it to make sure we're planning. So then you're not back in 10 or 15 years saying, hey, we're out of space, we need something else. So I think it's important to engage in the space study for, and then you get it, and then you see, okay, here's what's recommended, and then here's what we can afford, here's what we can do. But I think that it's important to really get the full picture of what you need when you're embarking on something this significant to the people of Pender County.
Judge Corpening, I appreciate the fact that you and Madam Clerk are here, because it's like you said with Mosley, they bring all the shareholders to the table. The members of our community are a shareholder. This is their judiciary. This is their courthouse. and they need to be aware of what's going on. And this is the only way that we as a board have to get the message to them, is if, and you don't want us presenting the message, I know, but it's a lot of moving parts. This is a start, and I'm glad we've got it approved, and we're going forward, and we'll see what happens.
And really looking forward to working with staff on it. It was an incredible process to be a part of, time consuming, but an absolutely incredible process, and a collaborative process.
Well, we appreciate the fact that you've gone through the process with this group, so we'll be relying heavily on your input, and hopefully we'll be able to go forward after this. So thank you, sir.
Looking forward to it.
Appreciate y'all being here.
Thanks again
Thank
for
you
your
so
support.
much.
Thank you.
All right, 8.13, consideration of purchase order to Boss Tune-Up and Argo ATV Sales LLC in the amount of $33,579.01.
Yes,
How
ma'am.
precise is that?
Want to make sure we're correct for the record there.
Yes, sir.
Thank you for introducing that item. This is, what you have before you is staff's recommendation for a purchase order in the amount that Chair Newton just discussed for everyone, $33,579.01 to purchase an all-terrain vehicle referred to as an Argo. And in case you don't know, an Argo is an all-terrain vehicle that also floats, so it will allow us to access sites where we're doing a lot of drainage improvement work. So we've leveraged a lot of grant money recently to do drainage improvement work across the county. We're trying to take a more proactive approach to reducing the impact of future flood events by better maintaining some of the waterways in the county. It's been challenging to access a lot of those points, either by boat or by foot. And so this vehicle is a means to be more efficient and more effective in carrying out that work, but also being responsive when we get complaints from citizens who are having issues with drainage, whether it be on their property or near their property. So trying to be more responsive and better equip ourselves to carry out this important mission. This opportunity is fully grant funded. So we've been looking at this vehicle similar to this for a little while. We have an opportunity to pay for it using grant funds, so we wanted to jump on that opportunity at the board's.
Why didn't you say so in the first place?
I should lead with that.
I'm sure the places you go into, you need something like this. I've seen some of the places you have to go into.
Yes, sir.
It's real pleasure here. It's a grant, a lot of grant money here too, so I think it's a win-win.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Adams, you're currently our planning director. Your prior position was more heavily involved in issues of flooding and resiliency and things like that.
Yes, ma'am.
So have we given any more thought to replacing you in that position? Because that's an important position.
Yes, ma'am. We hope to have that position posted in the next week or so. We tweaked the job description just a tad bit, working with HR on doing that, so we hope to have that posted
Right.
very
Good news.
soon.
All right. So is this a we pay and then they send a check?
Yes, ma'am.
And the money's already approved?
It is, yes,
It's
ma'am.
sitting there waiting for us?
It is.
So it's just a matter of changing pockets?
That's right.
All right.
So it's in the mail.
This check's in the mail. All right, any other questions? Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Do I have a second?
Second it.
All in favor?
Thank you.
All right, we want to see it when you get it.
We're all gonna ride on it.
Take Mr. McCoy for a ride on it, that's right. 8.14, ABC Board regarding closing costs for construction loan. Ms. Crawford.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, how are you?
I'm good.
Good.
I just wanted to come back, last time I was in front of you all, it was November, and we were working on getting the construction project started. I mentioned then that I would expected to be back, that we would have some expected soft costs coming up to get this project going beyond what we had then. And we now are almost ready to close on the loan for the project. And we need to use $200,000 out of the quarter that just started, that ends in June, out of that distribution money for the closing costs on the loan.
On the construction
The
loan.
yes,
Has the land been paid for?
yes,
Fresh.
yes.
Okay, so that's a done deal. So
Yes,
now we're
that's
just working
done.
on the construction costs.
And the contractors, the contract's been signed and that's paid. It's just getting the loan started and actually starting the construction.
What's your interest rate on the construction loan?
It was 4.7, I believe. I don't know if it's changed in those last couple of months while we're waiting to finalize things. Hopefully, if it did, it wasn't much. We're expecting to close in the next few weeks. We're waiting for some last-minute DOT. They wanted to change a couple of things with the parking lot driveway, and so we're waiting for their new approval on that, so.
What is it about DOT, the right of way had to be changed or something?
Yeah, they wanted the driveway going into the parking lot, which they call a stem. They wanted it to be 50 feet instead of 30. So that required moving the building itself back a little to make room for that. So they're finishing up, redoing that plan and waiting for the approval from DOT.
So when do you anticipate the next point will be that you will need to come back and ask us for funds?
I really don't know. It's just as we go along, if anything comes up, I don't know of the next thing to come up. It just happens when it happens.
Probably
we
be
don't-
after the end of construction when they're, start making their payments.
Yeah, I don't know specifically of another soft cost before the construction is done. But this is our first major project like this, and, 60 years we've been in the same building, so we kinda don't know what to expect at this point. Just trying to keep it down as much as possible.
Yes, ma'am. Any other questions? So for the benefit of those who were not here, other than Mr. McCoy and I, last November,
Yeah.
can you just kind of summarize what we approved for the ABC board there?
Yes, we, as I said, we've been in the same building for almost 60 years. And, as we've heard today about a lot of growth going on in the county, ABC's needs have grown tremendously. And, so we contracted with Bordeaux, and Smith Senate Architecture to draw up some plans. We purchased the property, almost a year ago.
Here in Burgall?
Here in Burgall. It's almost across the street from us, right there, kind of across from the car wash there next to Fremont Street. So we purchased that, and now we've gotten the plans for the building, and we were just about ready to close on the loan and get that done when DOT said, hold off, we need to extend this driveway. But yeah, we are sorely in need of the space. We're losing a lot. I mean, of course, all of our profit from sales goes back to the county and the municipalities, and we're missing out on a lot because we don't have the means to carry all that we need to carry and that our neighboring counties carry, and we're losing a lot of.
As I understand
to
it,
them.
you needed a new warehouse so that you could take advantage of sales.
Yes.
Such that you could increase profitability down the
Exactly.
road.
There's a lot of stuff we can't purchase. We can't purchase in bulk when things are on sale that would produce literally tens of thousands more dollars in profit.
Okay. And I can't remember right offhand, and maybe, Mr. Attorney, Robert, Mr. Keenan, you can, help with this, but what was the decision that we made back in November? Because the ABC board pays cities, municipalities, and the county, quarterly proceeds, is that right?
Yes, yes.
And we decided and agreed that ABC board had bought the property out of funds that y'all were holding, and then, after that, then we would reduce, the contribution from the ABC board over the period of repayment of the construction loan. Is that right?
That's correct.
Did I say that right, Mr. Keenan? Okay, all right. So we will still be getting a partial payment
Yes,
above what y'all will require
yes,
to pay.
yes, ma'am.
And we required you to get the local municipalities to be on board with that and
We
agree to
did.
that. So we're all on
Yes.
board with that.
Yes, we did. We've talked with all of them.
So, does anybody have any questions? Okay, that's
Can-
where
Can
we're,
I ask one just for the motion? Did
Yeah.
you say it was coming out of the first quarter revenues?
This,
Or-
this 70,000 we need for closing would come out of the quarter that just started
Okay,
for
so-
April. Yeah.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
we're on-
fourth fiscal year.
July 1, June 30th fiscal year.
Yes, sir.
Yeah,
And with Easter coming up and Memorial Day, that's one of the good quarters. We have
Yes.
a lot of good profits.
yes, yes. We're struggling now to get what we need in the warehouse to send out to the stores for those holidays.
Great. Any other questions? Do I have a motion?
I make a motion to release $70,000 from fourth quarter revenues to pay the closing costs for the construction loan.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? It's unanimous. Thank you. Appreciate that. Thank you for coming.
your help.
Absolutely. Oh, whatever happened to the vehicle that ran into the ABC store in Rocky Point? Did that store ever open back up?
It was only closed for a day.
Wow.
The rest of that day, it reopened the next day.
All right.
Nobody was hurt, everything was good.
I
And
think
the
that
driver
would
was
be
not.
Thank you. All right. So, we have appointments. 9.1, Mr. Avery,
That's Miss Avery.
Miss Avery, Nancy, I'm sorry.
No
You
relation.
know what, I was thinking about you. I was thinking that I needed to explain to Nancy why we did not ask Mr. Batson to give us applications. That was by statute. For that,
It's okay.
yeah, there were 5 members on the Pender EMS board, which is a contract organization that we contract with. And for that particular board, by statute, the county or municipality that it was contracting with had two spots. So that's how we, and, you know, it was up to them, so we just rubber stamped it. So, I'm sorry, Nancy. Ms. Avery?
And Madam Chair and Commissioners, you have one item, board appointments. The Tourism Development Authority has a vacancy due to Chuck Strickland resigning. We have one applicant to fill that from District 1, Lori Cheney Hastings. This will be her first appointment to the board, and her referral comes from the Tourism Development Authority Board Chair. So I'm asking that the board consider appointing applicant Lori Cheney Hastings as the District 1 representative for the TDA board.
So, that is, I believe, your district.
That's
Oh,
Yeah.
yours. Yes.
So I make a motion to approve the appointment of Lori Cheney Hastings, the District 1 representative to the Tourism Authority Board.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Okay. All right, so
She's here, but thank you for your service, for wanting to serve.
it's difficult to find members of the community that'll take time out of their lives to form and sit on civic boards like this. And we do appreciate everyone that chooses to get involved. Makes us all better. So, items from the county attorney. County attorney, are you with us?
I am, Madam Chair. I would ask that the board go into closed session pursuant to item 3, attorney-client privilege, and item 5, acquisition of real property.
All right, we will
Is there
do,
anything else, Mr. Manager?
we will
Yes, sir.
do so as soon as we go around the table. And Mr. Manager, do you have anything?
Thank
to
you,
share?
Madam Chair, members of the board, members of the audience. Meg Blue and I have been knee-deep in trying to balance the budget
Imagine.
requests and lots of them. Your first budget work session is scheduled for April the 27th at 4, and we will have a balanced budget, recommended budget delivered to you on that day. So a couple of other things. I'm excited again to announce that we have a staff attorney, Patrick Buffkin, who will start 2 weeks from today on April the 17th. And then, of course, earlier this evening, you approved the appointment of Melissa Radke as the tax assessor collector, and her first day on the job will be May the 1st, Madam Chair.
Very good, thank you, sir. Mr. Van, do you have anything?
Yes, just a couple of things, Madam Chair and fellow board members. First of all, I'd like to mention that tonight is Miss Nancy Avery's last night with us, and we certainly appreciate all of the
That's a good
service
job.
she's given us. She's been fantastic. And to add to that, we want to thank and introduce and welcome Miss April Radford, who is the clerk to the Cape Fear Council of Governments, and she will be helping us temporarily until hopefully we're able to fill the board clerk position very soon. So,
Thank you, April,
Thank
we
you.
appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Would also like to mention that we have the Service Awards Luncheon at the Burgall Train Depot this Thursday, April 6th, from 11:30 to 2. And all of the board is certainly welcome to attend that if you would be able to. And beyond that, maybe just as a reminder, this Friday as well as Monday are holidays for Easter. So, and that's everything I have, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Van. All right, do you have anything for us?
I do. So it's been a month and a half since I switched over. They took a new seat, and it's been a learning. I'm still learning. I will probably be learning when I'm long gone, because that's something you do every day. So around the neighborhood, in my neighborhood, the big topic is, development. So I started doing some research, and I remember a couple of years ago that there was a study approved, and the consultant hired to help rewrite the UDO, since it hadn't been done since 2010. And I seen in October of 2018 that was approved, and the contractor was hired, and there was several public hearings and meetings, and it appeared, looking at minutes, that was on its way to finalization. And then we lost the first planning director. So it kind of, slowed down, and then we lost this, Mr. Brewer. Kyle was working on it first. Kyle started it, then it went to Travis, and then it just disappeared, and I can't find anywhere in any minutes where that was ever officially tabled, or pulled, or approved. But the public is very interested in us revisiting that, because there is a flood of rezoning requests coming before us now, and that's going to have a big impact on development. So I've asked planning, and he's got me the information that he can find to date. I'm still waiting on the actual documents that have been presented. Also, there was some comments made during the commissioners meeting when it was leading up to it just disappearing, that I would like to be able to go back and review. Reading minutes is pretty vague. But I know we videotape, and there's got to be an archive of those videos somewhere. So I've asked Mr. Andrews or someone to help me find where those are archived, because the online versions only go back to April of 2020. And some of these meetings where these comments were made go back prior to that. So I'd like to see the environment that those comments were made, so I'd have a better understanding of why the minutes represented what they did. So that, like I said, that's it's a hot topic. Development in that eastern part of the county is
And you're in the
something
hot
that's
seat.
everybody- Oh, yes.
You're in the hot seat.
Yep, and,
So, I want to make this comment. You've been here a month and a half. But it's to his credit, that, and he told me this and I didn't believe him, but as quickly as he picked things up, I have no reason to disbelieve it now. He has watched every county commissioner's meeting for the last 10 years online.
Since they've been,
Oh.
online.
Well, since 2020.
Well, since they started videotaping, which has been several years.
Yeah, yeah. So I thought that was pretty impressive, so.
And I've read
kudos
every
to you.
minute since October of 2018 in the last week and a half to try to find out where the UDO got taken out of the equation, the updated UDO. Other than that, I would like to thank Ms. Avery. She made me feel welcome. She's helped me answer some dumb questions, and she's helped me get settled in. And I thank you, and enjoy your, I hear you're gonna do some traveling. Enjoy that.
And your cruise.
And
We'll be thinking about you. Will you be thinking about us? Don't
that's all I
blame
have,
you.
Madam Chair.
All right, thank you, sir. All right, Commissioner McCoy.
I have, I want to thank Nancy too. This is the second time she's been around, and she's helped me so much in the past, and we're really gonna think about us when you're on that cruise and reading a book or something. And, we're gonna miss you, but you've done a really good job. You always do a good job. I also like to, at this time, remember Deb Hayes. She was, New Hanover County Vice Chairman. I got to meet her a couple times. I was really impressed with her, and, she passed away last week, and we need to remember her and her family. That's it.
Thank you, Commissioner McCoy. Commissioner Hardy?
It's quiet on my end. I am gonna miss Nancy, that's for sure. She's gone above and beyond at all times. Anything that I needed or was willing to drive and meet me to bring me my book. I just really appreciate you. I hope you have a great time on your next adventures.
Thank you.
We really do appreciate you. And I back up what Mr. McCoy said. I sat on the WMPO board with Deb. Fantastic woman, amazing, just giver of her time and her energy and her willingness to go above and beyond. Didn't matter if you had a question or if you needed some information, she was always more than willing to give you her time. And she is definitely missed, for sure.
Thank you, Commissioner Hardy. Commissioner Groves?
I want to thank Miss Avery. She's really helped me a lot. It doesn't matter what I needed, or it didn't matter what I needed, she would find it or find a way to do it. So I want to thank you. We just clicked right off to start with, I think. Talking about watching meetings and hearing meetings, I've been in a lot of them also and watched a lot of them. And the past board has taken up the barking dog situation. And I had a citizen that come to me this week, and I told them that we would entertain that again in the future. It's kind of tough listening to a dog bark all night long. Not only all night long, but all day long, and the dog never stops barking. So in the near future, we're gonna have to take it up again. I've been in contact with Parks and Rec, and one of the things on my campaign trail was Miller's Pond. And if y'all go by Miller's Pond, you'll be able to see the pavilion now. We've had a homicide there, and I'm not gonna go into the other crimes that I've answered when I was on patrol. So we've got Miller's Pond to where you can see the pavilion, and our eyes are cameras. And I just wanted to thank Parks and Rec for jumping on that and getting that done. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. So in addition to the other committee meetings that I have attended since last we were here in session, we have had scheduled, and this is something that happened today, ALICE training, which is safety prevention with the law enforcement. I think it's very important. I'm very impressed with sheriff and law enforcement members who have gotten actually a grant to train 10 more ALICE trainers. It's very, I think except for 76, maybe 72 teachers, all of our teachers in Pender County have undergone ALICE training. I want to go through it. I think we all need to be mindful of things that we can do just to help us be a little bit safer, help us not to panic should, God forbid, something amiss happen to us in our church, in our shopping, in our work situation. You just never know. So I appreciate the sheriff and law enforcement and the Board of Education for taking it upon themselves to train our teachers, and you were a part of probably approving that program back when you were on the school board.
Yes.
And I would encourage you, Mr. Manager, to have, once our budget season is over, another opportunity for members of our board and department heads to undergo ALICE training.
Will do.
Yes.
Yep.
So I had an opportunity back mid-March to go to and participate in the Advocacy Day in Raleigh with American Flood Coalition. American Flood Coalition has been a very good partner for Pender County. It affords us an opportunity to be heard and to be seen on issues of flooding and flooding resiliency. My very good friend Deb Hayes and I drove up to Raleigh for this last time, where we met with Senator Perry and Representative John Bell, who I consider the premier leaders for the record-breaking millions of flood resiliency that was awarded back in 2020. The Department of, we met with NCDOT. Initially, we were up there for lobbying for $50 million to be placed in the budget this year for DOT to address road issues, for roads that are flooding and things of that nature. Department of Environmental Quality, we met with them. DEQ has been tasked with preparing a master plan, a statewide master plan, to help determine the areas most in need of funding for resiliency projects. It doesn't seem quite realistic to think that folks in the mountain have just as dire resiliency issues as we do here on the coast. Take Canton, for example. Their town flooded in 2021, and as a result, now they've lost their pulpwood mill. That was a paper mill. That was the primary employer in that town. So, and they can attribute this directly to resiliency. So it is a constant thing, and it is going to take some time for the blueprint to be finished, but we've got assurances that it will be done by the end of the year, and they'll get started on these issues. So we're working on it, and we continue to meet with legislators and lobbyists to help get the message out so that this will not rest until we have what we need to get done what we need to do, so that we don't have any more floodings like we had the last time. So that's all I have. And do I have a motion to go into
Public
closed
comment,
session?
Madam
Oh,
Chair?
yes.
Public comment?
Oh, I'm sorry, yes. Public comment. We will now hear from Miss Michelle Hickman. Did I say that right? Okay. And
Madam Chair,
Do you,
Commissioners.
now, where do you live, Ms. Hickman?
I live in Scotts Hill.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm a little bit confused. It says your address is
Yes.
Wilmington.
Right on the corner, you know, Scotts Hill Loop Road.
Okay.
Yes.
Some people live on-
So,
All right.
that's where I live, on the north entrance I go in.
Okay.
And that's what I'm here about, because there's a Circle K that's planned. You might have heard there's been more neighborhood upheaval, because a lot of us weren't really aware that it was going to be a
I'm
Circle.
sorry, you have 3 minutes.
Okay,
Go
okay,
ahead.
okay,
It
okay.
starts now.
Yeah, okay. So nonetheless, the Circle K that's proposed to go in is right at the entrance of this residential neighborhood. What's holding it up right now is the ordinance that's 8.1.3 regarding tree protection, for lack of better words. They're always wanting to negotiate, okay, what can we do with these trees? If we chop down these significant trees here, then what can we do? Currently, the way that it's worded, one of the biggest concerns is off the topic a little bit, but it's only for businesses. So as we all know, there's this clear cutting going on everywhere, which is tragic. Nonetheless, the Circle K is right on the corner, and the Board of Adjustments is going to, on the 19th of April, decide whether or not they're going to use some leniency to allow this Circle K to move forward. When you talk about a dog barking like crazy, there are residences diagonally across from where this is going in, and this is a 24-hour super Circle K with numerous gas pumps. So there will be light pollution, noise pollution that is devaluing, not just being a public nuisance, but is devaluing their property. And one of the gentlemen and his wife they're here today because they're right in that area. They had a traffic impact analysis. It was taken from information from 2019. They did include the Blake Farm, if you're aware of that, going in off of 17. But they did not include the extent of that development. That's gonna eventually be 2,000 residences. Okay, we already are one of the top locations right at that intersection for accidents. The speed limit is 55, and if you're not going 70, you're going to be pushed off the road. Alcohol is going to be sold. Not long ago, Scott Hill Loop Road is very dark. A 17-year-old died. He crashed his car. Now, I don't think alcohol was involved, but that's not out there for the public. But nonetheless, we all know we've all been teenagers, and we know the drinking age 21 now doesn't necessarily apply. Not only that, we've got then people that driving through a neighborhood that is a concern. Anytime a business of this nature goes in, crime goes up approximately 6%. So I'm really hoping, I'm standing here today, hoping that you will hold up the ordinance and ask the owners if they can please consider a different business to go in on that intersection.
Thank you, Ms. Hickman. Your
Thank you,
time is
ma'am.
up. Appreciate it. All right, Ms. Jennifer McKenzie.
Good afternoon, Madam Chairwoman. It's nice to finally see you in person. Good afternoon, Commissioners, or good evening, I should say. I am from the Scotts Hill area as well, Pender County. My address is 103 Leslie Lane. I'm here also on behalf of the Scotts Hill community with information that we feel is pertinent to the pending development of the 65 acres of forest land that comprises Abbey Nature Trails. I'd like to start today by asking a question. What causes modern drought? Most of us would logically answer rain, right? But that answer actually would be wrong, and here's why. Almost all of the rain that falls on Earth begins in the oceans. Once the evaporated molecules, which are not salty because sediment doesn't evaporate, become heavy enough to form rain clouds, the clouds are carried by trade winds to coastal lands. When a rain cloud reaches the land, it can travel 400 miles inland, and that's it. Rain clouds rain out and disappear by 400 miles. So what makes rain possible on the continents? The answer is a huge biotic water pump known as a forest. A forest is defined as 1.24 acres of trees that are at least 16 feet tall, with a tree canopy covering at least 10% of the land. For every square yard of forest, there are 27 square yards of leaves and needles that make up the canopy, called the overstory. By a mathematical formula, the 65 acres of trails marked by the Abbey Nature Preserve trailhead since 2009, as if it were protected, has a total canopy of 8,494,200 square yards of leaves and needles. That is incredibly significant, especially given the ages and extensively developed root system of those trees. But please don't take my word for it. I'd like to read a paragraph from an expert researcher and New York Times best-selling author on this very topic of coastal forests. For every square yard of forest, 27 yards of leaves and needles blanket the crowns. Part of every rainfall is intercepted in the canopy and immediately evaporates again. In addition, each summer, trees use up to 8,500 cubic yards of water per square mile, which they release back into the air through a process known as transpiration. The water vapor creates new clouds that travel farther inland to release their rain. As the cycle continues, water reaches even the most remote areas. This biotic water pump works so well that the downpours in some large areas of the world, such as the Amazon basin, are almost as heavy thousands of miles inward as they are on the coast. But there are a few requirements for the pump to work. From the ocean to the farthest corner, there must be forest. And most importantly, the coastal forests are the foundation for this system. If they do not exist, the system begins to fall apart. And according to data from the Global Forest Watch from 2001 to the year 2021, the system is already breaking down in the state of North Carolina. In North Carolina, the top 11 out of 100 regions were responsible for 30% of all tree cover loss between the years of 2001 and 2021. The top 5 in North Carolina are Beaufort, Brunswick, Columbus, Bladen, and Pender. This is not a top 5 list that we want to be on. The 65-acre tract Mungo plans to clear cut is a mature forest. These are not scrap trees. This is a 65-acre biotic water pump, more efficient than any man-made water pump will ever be. And we are talking about flooding. We have a forest that serves us right now for free. It absorbs and moves water by condensation and transpiration away from the coast. It serves Scotts Hill, it serves the people of this county, and it serves the state of North Carolina, because the water that's absorbed and moved away from the coast prevents drought inland.
Ms. McKenzie, I'm gonna have to stop you right there.
One sentence more?
One sentence more.
Okay. These 65 acres are only useful to us alive. Once the plug is pulled and the trees are felled, the first named storm that hits us will provide the epilogue. And you can bet it won't be pretty. And I very much appreciate your
Thank you
listening and
for
your
your
time today.
eloquent
Thank you.
remarks. We appreciate them.
Thank you.
Kim Meyer.
Thank you again for allowing me to talk. Kim Meyer, I live at 102 Leslie Lane. I was here last month as well. What I brought today is the Pender Development and Community Vision Statement. I just want to share it with you. I don't know if you all are aware of it. It is on your website. In the statement, I'm not going to read it to you because I know that you know how to read, but this section in red is of utmost importance to us, to our community in Scottsdale. It does say the word stakeholders, and as you defined earlier tonight, that means the members of our community. It's not just the commissioners or the planning board or anyone else, it's the community. And if you'll notice, it talks about improving the quality of life in our area, and it talks about how to balance development with existing communities. What we are seeing is, as I said last month when I spoke to you all, we have drainage systems that, well, we don't have any drainage systems. That is actually the issue. So therefore, I had asked for you to consider a stormwater supervisor or manager. And I know Daniel's position was mentioned earlier. Maybe rather than just a floodplain manager, I believe was his title, we consider a stormwater manager. And I also want to share, I've been working with Michelle and Jennifer, obviously. We attended the Herb and Garden Festival at Poplar Grove this past weekend. We had a booth. We actually talked to our community members in both New Hanover County and Pender County. I spoke with people in Old Town, or Old Point, I'm sorry, all over Washington Acres, Deerfield, Hoover Road, all of our communities that are being impacted by development. And of course, there was a lot of discussion and a lot of interest in what we had to say. We talked about Abbey Nature Preserve. The preserve isn't a trust. It will be protected. However, the 65 acres ahead of the preserve are not in the trust, and they will be clear cut. That is also part of the Gula Geechee, I have to think about it, Gula Geechee Cultural Heritage Corridor is in that area. That is the northernmost point for the Gula Geechee. We have reached out to the Gula Geechee to get comment from them as well. We would like to invite you all to look out for future development. We're trying to change ordinances. We've been reaching out to the planners. I understand there's a $250 fee for any recommendations that we have, which kind of goes against the vision statement. I've also been told that we could attend the first TRC meeting from Mungo Homes that was in December the 1st of 2022, but we are not permitted to attend, or the others won't be a public session. In New Hanover County, they are public sessions. And in fact, when I went there to fight against an apartments going across from Coastal Academy, we were invited to the table after the TRC discussion. And we met and were able to talk with the planning board members, which I have not had an opportunity to do here in Pender County. Okay? So please consider that. Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Bauer. Always a pleasure.
Thank you, ma'am.
Richard Lewis.
I asked if there's indulgence not to go to the podium. It would take longer than I have time for.
But we're so hard of hearing up here.
Then I refuse to speak. I'm sorry. All I want to ask is that, based on all you've heard, and based on going from my first meeting about a week ago, I was totally surprised at how many people showed up. Could you please have the commissioner that represents the Scotts Hill area show up at one of our meetings and listen to what we have to say, so he can come to one of your meetings and express our concerns to you for your consideration?
That would be me, sir. My name's Wendy Hardy, and I apologize, I don't know when any of your meetings are.
Well, we talked about that at our last meeting, and we'll make amends for that.
Okay,
We
yeah,
are.
I'd be glad to attend. Just let me know when it is.
We certainly will.
Okay,
Thank you very much.
sure.
And you'll have a go-getter on your hands then.
And thank you for your indulgence.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for being here. Thank you for your concern. And thank you all for your input. So, do we have anything else?
Closed session.
So, do I have a motion to go into closed session?
Madam Chair, I make a motion to go into closed sessions for items 3 and items 5, attorney-client and property acquisitions.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? We are now in closed session. Thank you all for coming.